As I begin my presentation, I'm going to share my screen with you for a PowerPoint. Hopefully I've placed things large enough on this that you will not have any trouble seeing any of the items. If you do, you just need to let us know. But I think this will be helpful for you just as we go through to have some key slides presented along with the information that we have. So first, I'd like to start with just a little bit of the history. I don't want to go into things in detail, but just to give a context of how MESA really began. It was in March of 2012 that the Institute Leadership Conference. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with some of our terminology, because the Mercy language is a language unto itself, so sometimes you will hear Institute Leadership Conference or the ILC. The members of this group are the elected sisters and the elected leaders from our communities of the Northeast, West Midwest, South Central, Mid-Atlantic, NIPAW, CASA, and the Institute Leadership Team. In 2012, they affirmed a working group called the Institute Ministry Group. And one of their very first projects was to create a visioning process for Mercy education, envisioning a preferred model of sponsorship for Mercy secondary and elementary school ministries. The steering committee for this visioning group, or the steering committee, would be 3 members of the Institute Leadership Conference, 3 members of the board for the Network for Mercy Education, along with Sister Deborah Trowlett as the Institute Leadership Team member liaison. Their purpose was to generate a future vision and model for sponsorship and sustainability of Mercy secondary and elementary education that responds to the needs and the desires of the ministries and the sponsoring communities through a collaborative and participative process that deepens relationships across the Mercy secondary and education ministries. They also wanted to provide any future adaptations to the structure and the organization for the network of Mercy Education. They spent 2 years in dialogue and consultation and research and collaboration with some of you that are on this call, but with all the Mercy education ministries, plus education ministries of other religious communities, and with our leaders in the Sisters of Mercy. And in December of 2014, they recommended to the Institute Leadership Team Conference that the desire to have one Mercy education system. We agreed to create a system to ensure that Mercy-sponsored, co-sponsored, and educational ministries are identified within the mission of the Catholic Church and are faithful to the charism, mission, core values, and traditions of the Sisters of Mercy. This organization would also be structured underneath the Institute Leadership Team, which is the Institute public juridic person for governance and for administrative components. And then in 2015, Jennifer and I were brought on board to help lead the project to design the new system. We began with 7 task force groups. Again, some of you on this call were on those groups. Some of the groups were around governance, finance, leadership, and charism. And the members on the task force groups were from our education ministries, sponsor councils, boards, and Sisters of Mercy. And then on July 1st, we opened our office here in Silver Spring, Maryland. and have been going strong for the last almost 2 months now, as we have begun our work. I have to remember to change the slides when I need to. So that's a general overview of where we've been. Skip the slide. Okay. Why we are doing MESA? Why do we have the Mercy education system? There's several reasons. One is we want to ensure the Catholic identity and Mercy mission into the future. We want collaboration among administrators, board members, faculty and staff, and students. So it's not just about each of us as our individual ministries, but it's what we can do together and how we can collaborate with one another to better ensure that the Catholic identity and Mercy mission continue. And in that, we want to support one another. When one ministry is struggling with a concept or wanting to do some research, there's probably another ministry who may be looking at the same issues or may have gone through an issue. And each of us are here to support one another and to help ourselves in our programs and how we grow together. It's a way for us to tap our best thinking. We as individuals can do so much by ourselves, but just think about how much more we can do when we collaborate and we put our best thinking together to work together to promote the future of our education ministries. We also have now a global perspective. We are 58 ministries strong in 6 countries and 1 U.S. territory. We touch over 26,000 students every single day. And when you can imagine the ripple effect of those individual students going out and going to their families or volunteering in communities, the impact that Mercy has every day is very large. And when you think about it, some days it can be overwhelming. A little bit about our structure. We have, as I said, the Sisters of Mercy are our leaders. Now, the way you're going to see these on the PowerPoint, I have one slide per section of our flow chart, and at the end you'll see the flow chart together. We have 5 women who serve on our Institute leadership team, and they began their service on August the 1st. The Institute leadership team holds the reserved powers in relationship to the Mercy education system of the Americas. So they hold the reserved powers in relationship to the board for MESA. And then they have given certain reserved powers over to the MESA board in relationship to each of the ministries. So we have a board of 12 members. At this point, we can have up to 15 members. The members should be representative of the Sisters of Mercy and also of the larger community of education. The members that are currently serving on the board have been in Mercy education in some way for many years, whether actively teaching or on school boards, on sponsor councils, and other capacities of committees as well. It is this group of individuals that relates directly to your local school board. Okay, and the relationship is identified through the reserve powers, which we'll talk about the reserve powers in just a moment. Then we have the Education System Office that facilitates the work between the board, the MESA board, and your local board. And probably we work most directly with you as the people on the grounds at each of the ministries. So when you look at the full flow chart, you will see the dark lines refer to the direct relationship of authority. So again, we have the Sisters of Mercy, the Americas leadership team. They relate directly to the MESA board. The MESA board relates directly with your board of directors. The MESA board is in charge of our office here, and I, as the executive director, report directly to the board, and then the other members of the staff report to me. The dotted line is a relationship line that is not a line of authority. The only authority that our office has with the individual ministry is only what the MESA board asks us to do with you. And that's some of the things that we will be talking about for mission integration and the programs and services. So that is the general framework of the MESA office and the MESA structure. Okay, the reserve powers. There are, I believe, 9 reserve powers. On this first slide, these are the reserve powers that you probably won't bump into on an everyday basis because these things hopefully don't happen very often. The first is if you adopt or change your mission, purpose, or philosophy. So if you are going to edit your mission statement, and in essence, that could change your mission. So therefore, that is something that the MESA board will want to take a look at before that is done. If you amend your corporation's charter, certificate, or articles of incorporation or bylaws, the MESA board will look at that. If you dissolve, divide, convert, liquidate, or wind up your corporation, basically that means if you're closing. That's what that reserve power refers to. If your board wants to create any subsidiary corporations, or if you want to sell all or substantially all the assets of the corporation, you would need approval from the MESA board. Again, now other than the bylaws, which bylaws are looked at every few years, the others of these hopefully would not come into play very often for you. Reserve powers that may come in a little bit more often. One is to elect members of the board of the corporation upon the recommendation of the board of directors. So when you need new board members at a local level, your board will have a process of naming those individuals and then taking them to your local board for recommendation and nomination. Once they have done that, those names are submitted to us here to take back to the board for approval. The board of MESA can also remove with or without cause any members of your local board of directors. You may also have that right within your bylaws. But if there's anything that's happening with an individual board member or full board that goes against the mercy charism and the Catholic teachings of the church, the MESA board could remove that board or board member. If at any time your ministry is looking to replace the chief executive officer, which would be the highest position within the school, whether that is a principal, president, depending on how you identify that. If that person needs to be replaced, then the MESA board will ratify the candidate for that and will also have a role within your steering committee for that process. The MESA board will also set some dollar amounts for any encumbrance of assets of the corporation. They are in the process of doing that at this time, and we have a board meeting later this week, and I believe they will probably have a policy ready for us to send out to all of you for us to operate under for this current year if there's any encumbrance of assets to occur. So those that covers really the bylaws and the reserve powers. Are there any questions that anyone has at this time? And due to us sharing our screen, we cannot see you very clearly as individuals. So just take yourself off mute and you can ask your question.
Hi, this is Denise Marbeck. I do have a question. One of the things you talked about was the ability of the organizations to share on things that they're doing right or other things that they need to have the opportunity to talk to other member organizations. So is that going to happen at the conferences, or are we going to have a blog, or how can that happen with all of us together?
We will cover a little bit of that under Kim's section when she talks about programs and services. But you will have many opportunities to do that. And as we see what the needs are, so sometimes there's a given topic that will come up that people want some input on, and we can easily send out information to the other administrators to say an issue has come up and folks would like to have a dialogue around this. So we could set up a Blue Jeans call and have people come on, within a matter of days, just get that set up for you, so that anyone who has had experience around it, a given issue or anything like that, can also occur. But yes, at some of the gatherings such as the conference or the administrators meeting, those are always times for sharing and networking with one another.
Lisa, this is Cheryl Krieger from Mercy High School, Farmington Hills. I have a question. I am wondering, I understand lines of authority, the link from your board to the local boards. How is that relationship going to be forged or nurtured? Most of the contact in the past under the past organization has been with the presidents and principals. So I get the lines of authority, but as a practical matter, how is that going to work out?
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. I think it'll probably occur like it has pretty much in the past. The office will help facilitate that. Now, there will be times that the board is really in relationship or with the administrators. So like this year at our administrator meeting, the entire board of directors will be present for MESA. So they will be there so that you all as administrators get to know them. And then when we have the leadership forum in March, as we did this past year, we will have another one of those in 2018, where your board chair is invited to attend. The MESA board will be there as well. We are also looking at some possible ways of maybe doing some introductory, like Blue Jean possibilities between the board at MESA and all the other boards, and their board members can come in and meet each other and ask questions and things like that, because we feel like that relationship is very important. We know it will take some time, but we here at the office will be the ones who really facilitate things. Really, in all practicality, it is between us and the principal or president, and then we help that flow between the boards of your local and of the MESA board.
Okay, great. And I'm also hoping that in the future, there may be some common materials that all the sponsored entities can use for orientation and things like that.
Yep. Yes, that's on our list as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sister Lisa, this is Angie from Mount St. Mary Little Rock. Will you be providing a copy of this PowerPoint to us after the seminar?
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yes, we will. And we also will have, it is being recorded. So if there's any pieces of it that you want to share with, I mean, pieces are the whole thing, but if there's any parts of it that you really want to be able to share with your boards, you will have access to the video as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, at this time I'm going to turn the presentation over to Sister Regina Ward.
Good morning and good evening. Really happy to be with you today. We were asked at the beginning of each one of ours for us to formally introduce ourselves.
Sorry.
Our executive director forgot to do that, but I'm going to do it for myself.
I'll do it at the end.
I am a teacher by profession. I taught for about 15 years in both 7th and 8th grade and high school. I taught in the 7th and 8th grade, I taught pretty much interdisciplinary. I taught theology, religion at that point, we were calling it, social studies and mathematics. And in high school, I was very much relieved to be able to go and be a math teacher, which is what my degree has afforded me to be able to do. Mary Kirby mentioned the last time we were together that she and I graduated from Gwinnett Mercy College, now university, together with our math degrees. So that's really a nice little touchstone for me here now. Then I went on to be an administrator at Mary Mercy Academy in Marion, Pennsylvania. For 14 years, I was vice principal first and then principal of the school. So that experience really broadened, as it is a lot of yours right now, broadened my experience of what education in a Mercy-sponsored school is all about. So I really grew to love being able to integrate the mission into the school. So that gives me great pleasure to be able to take this position and be able to work with some of you, all of you, hopefully, in being able to flesh out what it means for us to integrate the mission into the school. So that's going to segue me. Could I go to one before that? Segue me into what I'm going to be doing today. So my position is called mission integration. So I thought, well, what does that really mean? Some of you have already worked for Mercy-sponsored, not Mercy necessarily, but mission-sponsored institutions, whether it was a school or some other kind of a ministry. And you have a sense of what that really means for us to integrate the mission. So I think it's important for us to even understand, first of all, what do we mean by the word mission? And the mission in our case, because we are Mercy schools, is that it's the Catholic identity. Each one of us has been given the permission from our diocese to say that we are a Catholic school. So our first and foremost mission is that we are Catholic and that we are to promote the Catholic identity. And then secondly, because the Sisters of Mercy sponsor that school, we are also given the responsibility of the Mercy Charism and what that means for us in our particular ways. So what we have to say is that we are Catholic and we teach the mission, which is actually the mission of Jesus Christ, through the lens of mercy, which is really the gift and the life of Catherine McCauley. So it's through the lens of mercy. So the integration of all of that is really pretty important to us. And, you know, lots of times we think about, oh, well, we can teach Catholic when we are teaching theology. So in our theology classes, Catholic will be taught, and that takes care of us integrating the mission. And the answer is absolutely positively no, that will not happen. It is an integration in all aspects of school. The first one that I have listed there is the spiritual aspect of the school. And when I was beginning to think about that, I was thinking of our symbols and our rituals. I can remember when I was at Marion that lots of times families with new students would be coming to the school. And at the end of their visit, they would say something like, you know what? I could just feel it. It was just here. And we would kind of say, well, what's the it that you're feeling or talking about? And when you really get down to the point of it, it was the Mercy experience. It was the feeling that Mercy, or the mission of the school, was alive, and they wanted to take part in that. But not only is it the feeling, but what helps that feeling is all that is around our school. Now, obviously, it's going to be the students, the faculty, all of that. They make it happen. But when you walk into any school, you are faced immediately with symbols. There may be the name of the school and the emblem of the school that's someplace prominent as soon as you walk in. Hopefully, there is a Catholic symbol there. There may be a crucifix, or there may be some statues, might be something of Mary, the Mother of Mercy, or it may be something of Catherine Macaulay, something that will signify this is what we are talking about. This is where we capture what the it is that's in our school. But the rituals also do it. And I know that in a lot of situations, the campus ministry office is very responsible for preparing the liturgies, possibly for Mercy Day, possibly for an open house that you're going to be having, maybe for Christmas or for Advent, for Lent, for Ring Day, for whatever the occasion happens to be. And our students get really used to going to these liturgies and or prayer services. But in each one of those rituals, we really do try very hard to be able to model for our students what a quality liturgy is and what it is that is at the basis of our beliefs. So our spirituality within the school is one way in which we impact who we are. Now, even if you notice on this slide, the very first question that I wrote there was, how do Catholic identity and Mercy, mission, or charism impact life at Mount St. Mary Academy, Gwinnett Mercy High School, Gwinnett Mercy Elementary School, whatever school you are at, if you can just put the name of your school in there, how is life impacted by your Catholic identity and your Mercy, mission, and charism? That's what you really want to begin to think about as you think about mission integration. The second piece is academics, and academics for me is curriculum. And as I said at the very beginning, it's not just that we're talking about theology, but we're also talking about social studies, mathematics, science. Every single subject, English, every single subject has a place to be able to promote who we are as Catholic Mercy people, okay? How we want our students to graduate and go forward as women and men of mercy. How is that going to happen? Well, that is going to happen if we're able to integrate it into our curriculum. And then also the extracurricular and the co-curricular. Extracurricular and co-curricular could be the clubs that we have at school. It could be the athletic program. It could be the mission trips that we take, whether it's the ones that our students go to weekly, or possibly in the summer, you may, or in some vacation time, you may be able to send students somewhere. And hopefully there is some kind of reflection at the beginning and at the end that's going to help them to ground themselves in what this is all about, so that those programs become teaching experiences and grounding experiences for them. So it's not just the students that we want to integrate this with, but we also, in our administrative and governance experience, what do we do when we are interviewing people for a position in our school? Hopefully, the mission experience is a very big part of that interview, so that you're not going to be hiring somebody who then is going to turn around and say, well, you know what, I just came here to teach English. I'm not going to do any of that. That would definitely not be a person we would want to be hiring. Another thing is in the way that the board helps to facilitate what your policies of the school are. while you are at those meetings, are you speaking about the mission of the school while you are preparing what that policies are going to be? Finances is another big thing. I've been in institutions on boards where we've talked about the budget actually being the mission statement. If the budget is the mission statement, the mission committee really could take a look at that budget prior to it being submitted to the full board and look at it through the eyes of mission. Is it really speaking to who and what we are? So integration is the important piece, I think, there. It's a Catholic identity, and it's a mercy, mission, and charism, the mission being the gospel of Jesus in relationship or through the eyes of, lens of what mercy is all about. Yes, thanks. All right, so for our consideration, especially as we begin MESA, Lisa spoke a couple of minutes ago about the task forces that were set up while we were forming MESA. And one of those task forces was a charism task force. And from the charism task force, we were given the charge that MESA is going to do what we call a mercy accreditation with each one of our schools. Now, the mercy accreditation is going to happen in relationship, probably. We're not totally finished with all this, but it's in relationship with whatever the professional accreditation your school will go through. So that possibly we would be doing this right before it, in the midst of it, or right after your own self-study and the experience of the visiting team coming and you receiving your accreditation. We will be in touch with you as this comes forward so that you will be able to help us to determine when that is. There are two standards only for the Mercy accreditation, and that's the Catholic identity and the Mercy mission or charism. I'm not going to go through those two again because I basically just talked about them from the last slide. But one thing that just happened to us, we were visiting one of our schools in California, and we learned that diocese, the Diocese of San Francisco, actually does an accreditation with all the Catholic schools in the diocese, whether they are diocesan schools or independent sponsored schools. So it's going to be important for us, if that is happening, for us to be taking into consideration what the instrument is that diocese is using, so that we will be able to support that and have it be an accreditation process or a self-study that flows from both of them. So as we begin to look at how we're going to do this accreditation, we will be in touch with all of you to determine whether or not you are in a diocese where the diocese does an accreditation for your school. So if you don't know whether you have that or not, that would be something for you to take a look at. Okay, we should go to the next one. Right, the next one is what do we mean by Catholic identity? What are the characteristics of Catholic identity? And as I said before, the curriculum is the main one, and you need to make sure that your religion or theology curriculum is following the curriculum of the USCCB, which is United States Catholic Conference of Bishops. They do put a curriculum out, and you just need to make sure that it is aligned with whatever the curriculum is that you are doing. But curriculum is not the only piece of it. In Catholic identity, we're hopefully helping our students to grow in their own spirituality. There I say that they are developing a mature relationship with their faith and ultimately with Jesus Christ and his mission. And notice the word mature, okay? It's not just oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to go to church or whatever. But, as we say that we want to integrate the charism and Catholic identity into everything we do, we actually should be teaching our students to do the same so that they're able to make wise choices in light of what their faith is. The next one is that religious instruction as evangelization is evangelization, but not coercion. We have many students who are not Catholic in our school. We should be expecting that they would participate totally in whatever our faith expression is, whether it's in the rituals, whether it's in theology class, whatever it is, we would expect that as a student, everyone would participate. But that doesn't mean that when they graduate, we expect them to be a Catholic. We are respecting whatever their faith tradition is, and we're helping them to grow in a mature relationship within that same one, without going out of the way of trying to, do anything that's going to be, that you're teaching separately for them. But, to recognize it the same as we would any difference of diversity. And then integrate faith into culture through learning. This is so really important for us. We're taught as Christians that we are to look at the common good of all people. Well, hopefully through our expression of what our Catholic identity is, we're teaching our students to do the same. And we are also looking at everything through the lens of the Sisters of Mercy critical concern. That might be that when we're teaching in theology, Pope Francis's Laudato Si, we can look at the critical concern of earth. That's just one example, and for time, I'm just going to use that one. And then the last thing is the Mercy Mission and Charism, and as I said, we're using it through the lens of the mission of the Sisters of Mercy, through our critical concerns, our chapter document, our direction statement, and the life and values of Catherine Macaulay. The chapter document is actually a new document to us right now, because this past summer we had what the sisters call a chapter, which is a meeting of elected delegates to talk about what our direction is as we move forward. When you come in October to the administrators meeting, someone will be breaking open that chapter document with you, so you'll be able to bring that home with you. And the life and values of Catherine Macaulay, we are asking you to read, to study about her life, and to be able to integrate it into what it is that you are doing. So if you have any questions on any of that, I would be happy to entertain them at this point. Thoughts, questions, comments?
This is Cheryl Krieger again. I seem to be the lady with the most questions. This process sounds very robust and wonderful. I think we're postured well. Are we no longer then going to be doing that stewarding the charism reports, and or is that separate from this?
The one that you did annually every year for the board, annually for the board, is that
Yes.
for the for your leadership team is the way it was? Yes.
Yes.
There is going to be a piece of that, and we're not totally finished with what that is going to be. The board is working on that even as we speak.
Okay.
But when we do the accreditation piece of it, then you will not, in that stewardship piece, need to do anything with the mission. Okay, that year we will spend a little bit more time and in depth doing stuff with the mission for the accreditation. The other years it will be like an update of how are things going with the mission with you. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
No, that was it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say they certainly go hand in glove. It would be just a little different format.
Right. Yes.
And we will be bringing some things to the administrator meeting in October from the board around stewardship process.
So you'll have a
we have our board planning retreat this Wednesday, and is there any objection to us continuing until we get those other things in place? It's been a really good review, and it fits in nicely with what we have planned this year to do, that fourth, stewarding the charism piece. Is there any objection to us doing that? We were planning to cover it as a part of the retreat.
No, none at all. And I think depending on your originating community, there was also formation of the heart. I think South Central used different communities use different programs, and
Okay.
those continue to be there for your resources and for orientation and for reflection. So feel free to continue.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Okay, so this is Kim.
Did someone want to come in with a question?
Sorry to interrupt. Yes, this is Kate Siegel from Mount St. Mary Academy in Manchester.
Hi, Kate.
If we have done that accreditation process with our diocese, should we send you a copy of that?
You don't need to right now, Kate. Let's wait until we start the process with all of the schools, and then we will be asking for that. Actually, I may, as I begin to look at how we're designing the accreditation piece, I may be in touch and ask for them so that I can get a sense of that also. But it wouldn't be for the board to see at this point.
And may I ask one other question, please?
Sure.
We are also, in 2 years, we're up for our NEASC accreditation, which is in New England. And I was just wondering, do most of the schools also do that? Do we do all 3 of those accreditations?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions before I begin? Okay, so my professional background has been in teaching. I taught at Marian Mercy Academy for 26 years prior to this position in the social studies department, teaching history, government, and economics. I was the department chairperson for 15 years. I also had the good fortune to serve, and I still do, serve on the Mid-Atlantic Community Sponsor Council, and that was a great experience. And I also have served on the board at Waldron Mercy Academy, and I am a Mercy Associate. So it's great to be with you this morning, and just to go through some of the programs and services that MESA is offering and what we are visioning to be offering in the future. So I'm going to begin with the Mercy Education Conference. And certainly MESA did not start the Mercy Education Conference. It has a long history. The first conference was held in 1981. And a group of leaders throughout the Mercy world created the Mercy Secondary Education Association because they wanted the secondary educators to be able to come together, to collaborate, to share, and to foster the charism of Mercy. The network for Mercy Education was formed in 1999 and was very involved with the Mercy Secondary Education Association. And then in 2010, there was a formal relationship where the Education Conference came under the auspices of Network, so that Network could provide support services. MESA, the MESA office, will be the ones who now will provide those support services. There was also an organization called MEAN, Mercy Elementary Education Network, and they, had their collaboration and sharing. But in 2013, MEAN joined with the Mercy Secondary Education Association, and now it is one collaborative conference. So last year, the conference celebrated its 35th anniversary. The main planning for the conference is done by the Mercy Secondary Education Conference Committee, and then they ask the schools to consider hosting the conference. So we're happy that we'll be in Omaha this year. And so anyway, the Mercy Committee, Education Conference Committee, will continue to plan the conference. And as I said, the MESA office will provide the support for the education conference. So this year, you know that the conference is October 13th and 14th, with the administrator meeting being held the afternoon of the 12th. Okay, so I'm sure that you all have registered for the conference. If you have not, I strongly encourage you to do that. Sister, you would have gotten some correspondence from Sister Corky Raven from the network. If anyone does need the link to the conference, I'm happy to send that out to you. There's also a lot of information about the conference on the MESA website. So the theme this year is Mercy Responds, Who is My Neighbor? And Sister Deirdre Mullen is going to be our keynote speaker. So Denise, you had asked about, ways in which collaboration can happen. One of the ways that the first times we will be, aside from this meeting right here, that we will be able to bring everybody together is at the administrators meeting on the 12th. And then for those of you who stay for the conference, we hope you all will be able to stay for the education conference as well. Okay. And then in March, on March 1st of next year in Atlanta, we will have our second leadership forum. So as Lisa had mentioned, in addition to the head of school and the assistant head of school, we also are inviting the board chairperson to be present. And the primary purpose of the forum is really to bring the administrators together so that we can truly dialogue on the mission and the Catholic identity. So you'll be getting more information from us about that forum soon. Our first priority as a new office was really to be able to support our new leaders. So this program that we're participating in now was really the first thing that we worked on. So we're fortunate to have all of our new leaders, but we're also fortunate that many of our seasoned administrators are also partnering with the new leaders so that you're all sharing in this experience, and there can be a much stronger partnership that can develop through the experience. So it will be a 2-year program. As you can see on the slide, the topics for this year are going, as we move forward, are the Mercy Mission and Charism. We're fortunate to have Sister Mary Sullivan, who really is our expert on Catherine McCauley. We will also be looking at best practices in evaluations, and Carolyn Jaworski will be presenting to us in December. Sister Margaret Taylor will give a presentation on good governance in February, and then Sister Mary Wiskowiak will present on best board practices. For next year, we're looking at, just to give you just a little flavor, some of the possible topics could be ethical decision-making, crisis management, call to service and stewardship, and relationship with the church, just to name a few of the things that we are thinking. So, as we're moving forward, we really hope that this provides an opportunity, especially for the new leaders, to really form a cohort, But as Denise had asked, this is also an opportunity for the other administrators to join in and get to know one another. We're fortunate to have the video conferencing capabilities so we can see each other and really begin to collaborate as one system. I put on the slide the partners in ministry, which is a little bit of our flavor to the Leadership Academy, which has been sponsored by the Network for Mercy Education. We didn't have one this year because of the transition. It has historically been run in the summer, and so next year, MESA will offer our first Leadership Academy, and that will be in July on the 23rd and 24th in Baltimore. And we really are encouraging all of our new leaders to be present so that they will have the opportunity to meet face-to-face. And there will be a dedicated time at that Leadership Academy for them to meet and have that face-to-face meeting. But certainly we will be inviting many other people from the system to come. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of the detail on that in just a moment. The next service and program is, I'm calling them our cohort groups. The network and Sister Corky have been facilitating groups of staff and administrators from the schools in the areas of advancement, campus ministry, finance, and technology. And what has happened in the past is that an invitation has gone out and they've had conference calls. So anyone who can join that call from that subject matter would get together. What our plan is to, we're going to get, Sister Regina is going to facilitate the campus ministry group, and I will facilitate advancement, finance, and technology. And, we are going to invite all of the advancement folks, all the campus ministers, et cetera, to join in a video conferencing. So we'll be using Blue Jeans. We can record those calls as we have. We will initiate the calls, and then for those initial meetings, my plan is to, see who is interested in being a regular participant, and, both between our office and the people on the calls, who will facilitate those calls. So we're going to get those started the end of September, beginning of October, but we're also hoping to be able to add some more categories. So, maybe getting the admissions directors together, or the school deans, the disciplinarians, the activities directors. So there's lots of possibilities. So we will get the 4 existing groups together and then move forward with some other opportunities. But it will really provide a lot of opportunity for collegiality and collaboration. And then just a little bit more detail on the partners in ministry. I already mentioned the when and the where in Baltimore, and we are contracting with the Embassy Suites right near the airport. So I will be sending out information on that in the near future. But generally, who would we like to invite to attend? Really anyone. But we were thinking people with 1 or 2 experience in leadership positions in the school, those relatively new to a Mercy school, maybe those who just want some renewal in what does it mean to teach in a Mercy school, those who would like to explore a greater exercise of leadership within the ministry, and those who would be looking to learn more about the charism, the core values, and the tradition of mercy within the schools. So again, our goals are really to create an environment of collegiality and collaboration, dialogue among the participants, renew our commitment to the mission of mercy, and then gaining ideas and a stronger capacity of mercy and what that means and how we can together make the system even stronger. So we're hoping that, we will have a great attendance, and it would be, like I said, just the 2 days and 1 overnight. And then there are some initiatives that we are thinking about. So I'm calling them, putting them on the horizon. We would like to have a system-wide leadership conference for students that will most likely be held in the summer. So, possibly your student council leaders, your ministry leaders, your service leaders would attend. What would they be doing? Certainly learning about the mission and the charism of Catherine McCauley, developing leadership skills. So, our thoughts are to have leadership development activities, enhancing their own individual leadership, learning how to work as a team, getting to know each other and what each other's strengths are, working as a team. We also thought that it would be great to have a service project that they would identify, and then each school would bring those ideas back, and they would also learn about fundraising techniques, but each individual school would do what they thought would work best for their community to raise funds for this common service project. And we really would like the project to help and assist someone within our own community, within our own Mercy world. So there would also be a service learning component to this Leadership Academy. And as I said, learning about fundraising, and then hopefully even having them do a day or an afternoon of service while they are here. We would hopefully have this some point, if it's this coming summer or the next summer in June, so it wouldn't be too far into the summer, because I know the kids have various activities, so we would try to plan that shortly after the academic school year, and it could be 3 to 4 days. So all of these things are some of the thoughts bubbling to the surface on that. We also are thinking about having a system-wide full immersion service project. So, inviting students from all over the system to participate in possibly a week-long service project. And again, hopefully aiding one of our own ministries or the community of one of our own ministries throughout the system. And then finally, looking at collaboration between the schools who offer dedicated academic support programs for students, and really trying to make some connections between the people who are, working in those programs to help strengthen everybody's program. Does anyone have any questions?
It's Cheryl again from Farmington Hills. I have another question. Oh my gosh. Okay, so again, what a wonderful opportunity for our students. Just to let you know, something that was a bit awkward for us with former leadership academies. Perhaps if we know that there is going to be a full immersion project for students or a theme for the following year, if the schools could know ahead so that we could prepare, because what was awkward in the past is that our students would come back having had this wonderful experience, and we had some initiatives planned, and they would come back and say they were committed to doing such and such, which of course supported one of the Mercy missions, and which we were all for, but we may have had something else in mind for that year. So it was, we don't want to have too many conflicting initiatives that involve raising money. Let me just say that.
Yes. Thank you, Cheryl. That's excellent feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But they were always wonderful experiences, so I don't want to sound negative about it.
No.
That was just a little blip for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's an excellent point. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Are there any other general questions about anything that, any of the materials that any one of us has covered? Give them a second to.
We want to make sure we give you anyone who has any questions, comments before we move towards our closing. We are very aware that for I think everyone on this call, you are just opening up your schools. Some have been in session for a couple of weeks. Some may have just started. So if there's, anything, we have just a few minutes if anyone wants to share anything about their opening. Okay. What we'll do, since I did not tell you anything about myself at the very beginning, I'll do it at the end here. Basically, my entire life in the Sisters of Mercy has been with education. It was my first missioning, was into the world of education, and has continued that way. My first missioning was in Mount St. Mary Academy in Little Rock, Arkansas. And off and on for probably about 20 years, a little over 20 years, I served there in capacities as the registrar, teaching theology and business classes, school counselor, and then also in administration. Then after my stint there, I moved on to Savannah, Georgia, where I worked at our school, St. Vincent's Academy, doing some counseling as well, teaching some psychology, and working in the technology department before I was asked to take on the project of helping to create the Mercy education system. I feel like I have the best of all worlds. I love Mercy and I love education, and get to do that every single day and be with our ministries throughout the entire institute, and learn more and more about what we are doing across our world in relation to our charism. We really appreciate all of you taking the time out of your day. We know that it's not always easy, especially in the beginning, to carve out some time. But we feel like holding our orientation program this way and inviting administrators who have been around for a little while to join us is a wonderful way for us to share and to learn from one another. and to continue to grow in our relationship. So we hope that those of you who are not new administrators and are on here, that you can join us at some of the future calls that we will be having throughout the year as well. We look forward to seeing all of you in Omaha for the administrators meeting and also the education conference. I did want to say just one thing about the conference is that conference is always for it's really about the mission of Mercy, and it's for everyone. It's not just because it started off as Mercy Secondary Education. It is, as a system, we are now elementary and secondary, and the conference does include all of us. So I know sometimes when we use the term Mercy Secondary Ed and referring to our history, and really we're in that transition phase, sometimes the folks from our elementary or middle school say, well, does that include us or not? And yes, it does. It very much includes you to join us as we move forward. So in closing, we will use a prayer together, and I will read the prayer because, as we know, for those of us who have been using technology for a while, you just do not try to say a prayer together when you're on Blue Jeans. It just doesn't work. So I will read that prayer for us. And this prayer is called Catherine's Prayer for Guidance, and it's one that we've been using here with some of our ministries, but it just reminds us that we always need God before us and with us. So we ask God to enter back into our space, and knowing that God has been with us throughout this entire call and continues to be with us. Come, O life-giving Spirit, transform us. Stir up in us the flame of love, which is your gift. Give us wisdom to see as you see. Give us understanding to hear as you hear. Give us courage and strength to walk the way of justice and integrity. Kindle in us wonder and awe that we may have grateful spirits. You who dwell within us, praying unceasingly, fill us with the love and devotion. Holy wisdom, guide us in the choices we must make. Give us discerning hearts that we may choose what is good in accord with your desire. Loving God of mercy, finish in us the work you have begun. Amen. Amen. Again, we thank all of you for being with us. Please, if you need anything, or if you have questions after this and just did not want to ask them, feel free to call or email us. We are just one click away or one punch the phone away, and we're here to be of service to you in any way we can. So again, thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You
Thanks,
too.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.